Hello, and thank you for coming out today. I hope everyone's having a good morning. And thank you, Debbie, for inviting us out. Today, we're going to be talking about AI and how AI can help you manage, organize, and analyze your data. So I've prepared a quick presentation we can go through, and then we'll do some questions and answers after that. So to begin with, my name is Oliver Kingsmith. I'm the founder and CEO of SmartR.AI, and we've been helping companies integrate AI and machine learning into their products and workflows all over the world. I started working with AI back in 2016, and I founded SmartR in 2020. So there's a lot of data out there. In fact, next year it's estimated there's going to be 181 sextillion bytes worth of data that will be analyzed, stored, and moved all over the world. And that's an enormous number. If you were to give every person the same amount of money that Elon Musk has, you still wouldn't have 181 sextillion dollars. And yet for the people watching this podcast, the amount of DNA in our cells is actually greater than 181 sextillion bytes of information. So it's easy to imagine how our technology over the next 20 or 30 years will be able to manage and handle even larger amounts of data. And so this amount of data out there is going to grow exponentially over the next 30 years. So with all this data, what can you do with it? How can you get any kind of sense out of it? I like to joke that we are drowning in data but thirsty for knowledge. And this is really where AI comes into its own. AI has the ability to be the grease between the technology that we have, the data that we have, and the knowledge that we're craving. And that's what we're going to look at today. In particular, we're going to look at how you can use AI to ingest data. You can look at AI how to organize data, how to analyze data, and finally we're going to look at an example of how you can transform data. And using this AI really allows you to see hidden meaning in the data that you have. So what we're going to do is start off by looking at something we call the data hoover, and this is really useful when you have to deal with a lot of data that's coming in from third parties. So this might be that you've got a lot of suppliers that are sending you information. You may have to be getting regulatory information and dealing with that. You may have to go out and actually scrape websites because you need this knowledge and this data that's getting constantly updated from other sources. But those are the kind of cases where people really find this technology handy. So let me start by showing you how this works.
Welcome to the SmartR.AI demonstration of the Scotty Data Hoover. Let's say your boss wants you to collect information about all the speakers at an upcoming event. Instead of manually clicking through numerous web pages and copying data, we can use AI to automate this process. Here is the Scotty user interface. We enter the event website's details and ask, can you extract information on the speakers at this event? In the background, Scotty utilizes a large language model to process the HTML, parse through links, and build an understanding of the website's information structure. The AI navigates and scrapes relevant pages to compile the requested speaker details. The end result is a neatly organized table populated with each speaker's name, company bio, and other pertinent information pulled directly from the website. You can now download this data and utilize it for reporting. Next, we want to demonstrate what Scotty can do with PDF documents. We'll look at a common use case of financial statements. PDFs are not easily machine readable because each one is a computer program describing how the document should be laid out. We start by loading the document into Scotty, and then we can start asking questions. Scotty processes the PDF, enabling it to read the information in the document. I'm going to ask, what was the total assets less the current liabilities in 2022 vs 2023? In this case, Scotty answers the information based on what is in the document, giving us the figures of £30,000 versus £387,000. Let's now ask, can you extract the balance sheet as an Excel file? Having the ability to reformat PDF data into Excel and other formats is very useful. Scotty parses the document and quickly generates a table. In both of these examples, Scotty is doing more than just extraction. It has an understanding of the document. It can answer questions and format data in the style you need. Scotty is brought to you by SmartR.AI.
So now that we've seen how we can ingest data, the next thing we can look at is how we can organize data. So a lot of the data that companies have is actually contained inside documents, emails. It could be inside spreadsheets. It can be in Slack channels, data warehouses, data lakes. But the trouble is it has no structure. It's basically disorganized data. And the question is, how do I get that disorganized data to do something useful? We're now going to look at a tool where we can actually take documents and we can start extracting out structure and organizing the data inside those documents.
Hello and welcome to the SmartR.AI demonstration of the Scotty Graph Creator. The Graph Creator tool allows you to extract interesting relationships from your structured and unstructured data. It can work with Excel files, PDFs, Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, databases, and much more. This versatility makes it an invaluable asset for anyone looking to uncover hidden patterns and insights within their data. Today, we're going to see it working with a legal document. We'll use Scotty to first extract key entities from our document. These entities guide Scotty in producing the graph, but it can work without this step too. This feature is particularly useful because it ensures that even if you don't have a clear idea of what you're looking for, Scotty can still provide meaningful insights. We can use Scotty to get summaries or ask more general questions about our document, like you see on screen now. Whether you need a quick summary or a detailed examination, Scotty can adapt to your needs. However, what we're really interested in seeing today is the production of graphs. Let me ask Scotty to produce a relationship graph for this document. These graphs are incredibly useful for visualizing the connections and interactions within your data. They can highlight relationships that might not be immediately obvious from a simple reading of the text. You can see Scotty is able to produce a nice visual representation of some key aspects of the case. These graphs are produced iteratively. Over time, Scotty builds larger and larger graphs, giving us a deep understanding of what is going on in our data. I'll pause the graph here to show another cool feature. We can now ask Scotty questions about the graph. As Scotty goes about building larger and more complex graphs, its understanding of the underlying materials grows. Here, I've asked Scotty to give the implicit relation between the two large mountain bikes and Kmart. I can also ask Scotty to explain how Rita Marmara, a key person in this case, is related to Kmart. It's never been this easy to understand complicated relationships in your data, and Scotty makes the results easy to understand for anyone, no matter the level of technical expertise. Let's now jump over to a much bigger relationship graph, which I've let Scotty produce in the background. You can see how much information Scotty is able to extract. These graphs have typically been time-consuming to produce. However, by harnessing the power of LLMs, the extraction of entities and the relationships can be made simple. Today, we've seen the legal case example, but this could also work to help you gain a high-level overview of how the members of your team contribute to projects and work with one another. You could use this to map out sales opportunities or to understand project requirements. Scotty is brought to you by SmartR.AI.
So we've now looked at how we can organize data. The question is now, how can we get insights out of that data? And so one of the things that we've been working on, and probably our most popular tool, is called the Data Analyst. And this tool allows you to really go in and analyze the data that you have and format it up and see it in ways that you couldn't see it before, and do that quicker and faster than ever before. So let me show you a demo now of the Scotty Data Analyst in action.
Welcome to the SmartR.AI demonstration of the Scotty Data Analyst. We have loaded a database about bicycle sales. Scotty is designed to answer questions and visualize results using natural language queries. Let's ask Scotty, please visualize orders by day in 2023. Scotty analyzes the database, writes the necessary code in Python, constructs a SQL query to extract the sales information, and automatically produces a graph visualizing the results. Scotty doesn't just blindly write code or database queries, It actually looks at the data source and figures out how to construct the exact query needed. The graph Scotty created allows us to see a glance at how orders fluctuated throughout 2023, enabling quick identification of peak periods and potential factors influencing sales volumes. Now let's switch databases and look at answering text-based questions. Scotty can actually hook multiple databases together if needed, providing a unified view across disparate data sources. Let's ask, which branch had the highest revenue in 2023? Scotty creates the SQL query to extract the relevant answer, leveraging its understanding of the data and appropriate fields from the connected databases. In this case, the Paris Central branch had the highest revenue at €2.3 million. Switching back to the sales data, we've seen Scotty generate graphs and answer questions. Let's now see how Scotty can run a basic statistical analysis to reveal patterns in the data. Can I see a correlation matrix for the info in the orders table? Using AI to enable natural language data exploration opens up data utilization far beyond what was previously possible. This democratization of data will enable enterprises to become more efficient, gain valuable operational insights, and empower more informed decision-making across the organization. The correlation matrix reveals that footfall was important for boosting sales, while the marketing budget didn't seem to influence sales or footfall significantly. This insight could prompt a review of the marketing department's strategies. With AI tools like Scotty, the ability to visualize, analyze, and derive insights from data is no longer limited to technical roles. It becomes accessible to anyone who needs it. Scotty is brought to you by SmartR.AI.
So now let's look at how we can deal with transforming data. So we've looked at ingesting, organizing, analyzing. The final step is transforming data. And we could do this a number of different ways. But the example we're going to look at today is electronic health records. These records are absolutely critical in terms of how medicine gets delivered worldwide, but they are often quite inconsistent and they may have multiple sources coming from many different suppliers over time, and it can be very difficult to know whether you've even got a complete record. This kind of technology with AI allows us to really clean up that data and do some useful stuff with it.
Hello and welcome to the SmartR.AI demonstration of the Scotty Report Writer. Electronic health records are now the standard way of tracking patient information, but understanding these records can often be like putting together a jigsaw puzzle. The records can be lengthy, collating information from multiple providers and doctors over many years, including test results and other data. We're going to load one of these records into Scotty. Here you can see the user interface is very straightforward. We load the file and then we ask the question, can you provide me with an easy-to-understand document explaining this health record? Scotty will now process the information inside the electronic health record to give an account of the patient's current situation. This report output can be customized and modified depending on the user's needs. The report has been structured by sections, ensuring every output is consistent and easy to understand. Sections can be added or removed depending on your requirements. The report writer is trained uniquely for each use case to ensure it has the correct tone and information in the report. This ability to transform information opens up the information for more people to use. Once the report has been generated, it can be saved as a Word document. Scotty is brought to you by SmartR.AI.
So the AI revolution is really here. People are already using this technology to make big insights and big improvements to their operations. So what I'd like to do in a second is open up the floor to give you the chance to ask us some questions. It doesn't need to be about Scotty at all. We're happy to talk about general AI, really just kind of get that conversation going. And hear what you have to say about AI as well would also be really interesting. Before we get there, let me just pop up my contact info here so you guys have a chance to connect with me. I have my LinkedIn QR code up here that you can scan and connect with me. Happy to do that. I also have just my regular contact info up if you'd like to use that, and then we can connect that way. Please feel free to reach out and ask any questions you might have. Doesn't need to be about SmartR or Scotty. Any AI questions at all, we're happy to always talk to people and see if we can help you out. So once again, thank you so much for being here and listening to what we have to say. Let's see if there are any questions now that you might have that we could answer. And I'm sure Neil will be happy to volunteer a question if no one else will.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of relates back to Scotty, but you did mention about his data issues, his ability to deal with really messy data. What would you say was the typical corporation out there, the state of their data, without giving away any clients' names?
Yeah, so we definitely find that data quality can be an issue inside organizations. And that's a big part of what we do is we help companies when we come in and implement AI into their organization is look at that data. We do that really early on. We want to get a good kind of stake in the ground, understand the kind of problems might be there so it's not a surprise to anyone, and then we work out a plan for dealing with any problems that might exist in the data sets. And typical problems we see is the data can be scattered far and wide. It's not necessarily that well centralized in some cases. In other cases, while the data is supposed to be in a relatively standard format, people have bypassed that, and there's a lot of missing data or data that's been recorded in different places. And then sometimes we have quality problems with the data, so it's not quite at the level that you might want it to be. The transcription errors or various other problems that have gotten into the data, and so we have to look at all of that as a whole and work out a good strategy to help companies get that data in shape. We often actually use AI to help us in that process as well, to actually clean up the data and get it into better shape. But that's really a key part of any AI project you're undertaking is getting that data into good shape before you actually use it.
Sorry.
So, Oliver, I'm not a database expert, but I guess one of the questions I had was, like when you go into a company and they all have so many different databases and behind different applications and all, how do you normally start? Do you go with the ones that are easy in a sense, that we this is a proprietary database, so let's work on the ones that we can actually talk to, and what's kind of your process there?
Yeah, so we always go back to what is the use case you're trying to solve. So before you start any project, regardless of whether you're doing AI or not, you really want to understand what is the business case that you're trying to accomplish. And so you've really got to look at all those databases and data sources that are needed to actually solve that particular business case, even if they're messy. One of the things that we've developed to help us in that process is a technology we call Schema Sense. And this allows us to go in and automatically document the databases that people have, legacy databases. And that in its own right is really useful. I mean, a lot of people really like using that because it's this interactive backwards and forwards that you can do with your data to actually understand what you have. And then now you've got good documentation, a good understanding about what that data actually is. And so that's one of the things we do to help get through that jam of organizing and documenting data. But we still need to do it to everything you need to solve that particular use case. And that's really the key thing.
Thank you.
Are the people out there that have a lot of legacy databases? Does that something that your organization suffer from? Or is most of your data now, all well contained inside beautiful, pristine data lakes with no problems whatsoever?
Clayton Brown's just put a question in the chat. What is the combination of products needed to run the demos today and expected costs? Man after my own heart there.
um, yeah, that's a great question, Clayton. So they're all part of the same suite of products that we offer, and we do a lot of customization depending on what the clients need. So they are products you can use, but we typically come in and spend maybe 100 to 500 hours actually customizing them for people. The starting price on the products right now, the actual starting price on the product is 42,500, and we do have clients that actually buy it for that, and that's United States dollars. for that price. But we also have clients that spend significantly more because we're doing a lot of implementation and DevOps work. When most people are using these products, they don't actually use the GUIs that you saw today in today's demo. They're using our API, and we deliver that in a Kubernetes container. And then we work with your IT and DevOps teams to make sure it gets integrated correctly into your workflow.
So Scotty is buy to own.
Yeah, so it's a buy to own model. So it doesn't matter if you've got 1,000 people using it, or you don't pay more for that particular for that particular thing. Once it's integrated into your system, you can use it as much as you want. And we design it that way because we often do a lot of training to the models based on your data. And so once we've incorporated some of your data in the models, we can't really reuse it with any other clients. So then it becomes your models and you control them, and they live on site with you, so that you don't need to worry about any kind of data leakage.
And Clayton's also followed that question up with, do you offer a free trial for a POC? We actually go beyond that with the playpen, don't we?
Yeah, we offer a number of things where we want to make sure that people feel pretty comfortable with what they're getting and can see the value of it. And so we'll frequently put together a POC for a client that they can get to play with and use for a bit. We also, as Neil says, we have a playpen that you can also use where you can upload data and try it out and see how things are working in it. Some of the tools do need customization to really get the full effect out of them. For example, the graph creator tool, if you're trying to extract and structure information, we really need to understand, well, what is the information that is important to you and how do you want it structured? And we set up the graph creator then specifically for that use case. Other tools like the data analyst, you can almost use off the shelf. We do need to do usually a little bit of customization to get the great results out of it. But even, without much customization, you'll get a lot of value out of using that tool. In terms of the kind of industries that people are working on. Oh, we got some other questions here.
Do you support other modes of interaction, such as both voice input and output?
We can support that. There are some challenges sometimes from the infrastructure point of view if you're needing that kind of real-time performance, and so that can raise the compute costs. But we can talk about that. And the reason why that's important is we also try and make these models as small and as green as possible, so that they don't cost a lot of money to run. But if you want voice, then we need to sometimes up the recommended compute power that you have available in order to be able to do that, because you really want to get that real-time interactiveness.
Okay, I might want to follow up and talk with you one-on-one on that
Sure,
particular
absolutely.
part. Now, I have a general question, and this system looks quite powerful, of course, and there's the dollars that go with it. But let's do a critique to peek into the future, and that is, what is not in Scotty that people have been looking for that you plan on putting in soon, or what is, well, I don't like to use the word broken because it's obviously it looks pretty smooth, but what's not connecting yet, but would be like highly desirable in the near future?
Yeah, so we've got a number of internal activities that are going on right now. I can't outline all of them, but I can outline a few of them that we've got going. So one of the ones that we are very interested in is being able to deal more with um, graphical content. So things like schematics, blueprints, that kind of stuff. We think there'll be a lot of value to being able to get that into Scotty and build that into your information. So those kind of ideas of diagrams.
I concur with that one. That would be huge.
Yeah.
What I've seen here so far very impresses me. Just the basics here, and I'm sure I missed some key details that I'm going to have to rethink and discuss between yourself and colleagues.
So that's one area. And the other area that we're also looking at is helping in managing projects and be able to organize and extract data out of large scale projects as they go through the development system. So we already have a client in the aerospace industry that is using a version of Scotty specifically to do that. And we think that's also another aspect of this kind of technology that can really help manage projects and provide much more storehouse of knowledge and ability that organizations have built up and apply that more effectively and consistently to future projects. So that's another area that we're working actively in right now.
Thank you, Oliver.
Other questions that people have about AI in general or about Scotty? Because we're happy to try and answer either one of them.
Do you have a side project called HAL 9000?
we don't have a side project called HAL 9000 yet. We probably should get one. I was driving most of the team absolutely nuts for the last couple of weeks because I wanted to get Scotty to try and program in Prolog. And actually, with some level of success, we did manage to get him to program in Prolog a bit, but that was a side project we had going for a bit. Theo, I think
I've not heard Prolog in a long time. I actually done a little bit of programming with Prolog myself back decades ago.
Yeah, so we got Scotty to do some interesting things that we're also thinking about adding in at some point in time, like a scheduling, which is Prolog's really great if you can actually program in it to figure out how to schedule and manage resources as well. So we were looking at it from that standpoint of view. That's probably actually a good point. You might have noticed as you're going through the demos, Scotty is not just kind of making up the answer. Scotty doesn't just tell you the answer that it thinks might be the answer. We always make Scotty go through what we call gates. So Scotty's always using external tools to extract and do stuff with the information in your data. And by doing that, you can both go back and check exactly what Scotty's done and reproduce that independently from any AI engines. And B, it also gets rid of the problems that things like ChatGPT have, which are hallucinations and that kind of stuff, because Scotty actually went and did the work to find the data and manipulate the data correctly using external tools to give you the answers. So we really focus on this idea of explainability and traceability in everything that we do. Because we
It's
think
called auditability, and that is a very unique thing you just brought up. Arguably, I've not seen anybody really discuss that very systematically with their LLM implementations. Although everybody would like to have it, it sounds like you got some proof of answer.
That's right.
And that would be when that's an auditability proof of answer.
Actually has an audit trail built in that you can just look at, so it will justify every answer for you.
So if you're making a critical decision, you still want to make sure that the logic that Scotty used is correct. But you can see the exact logic that Scotty used and independently verify that.
Is that format of that pathway of auditability or proof of answer, or what is what I call it? Is that both graphical as well as verbal?
It's currently it's verbal currently, and it's a combination of both text that you can read and understand, as well as then the active commands and code that it used to actually manipulate the data. So it sort of documents exactly how it did it, and then it shows you the exact commands and code that it ran in order to be able to extract the answer.
So it sounds like in the future it could have a graphical sidebar to what you're looking at verbally to kind of follow along a little bit more easily, because a lot of multiple complex queries in LLMs, they become kind of like a maze of stuff. And so you saying like here it could be a fork for, there's 3 schemas that we see. We're picking schema number 2. The next stage could be, okay, we see 5 schemas here. We've decided to use schema number 1, but we also used a weighting from schema number 5 to arrive at this verbal summation.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that's sort of what I'd call a kind of decision tree graph almost. Flowchart decision tree graph would be definitely useful as things get more complex. And it's not something we have on the roadmap for right now, but I think I agree with you. It would be very handy, especially with some of these more complex reasoning steps that Scotty goes through. I think I saw that question. Let me just bring it up there. It disappeared. So in terms of identifying sensitive or personal information, yeah, we can definitely get Scotty to do that. And because of the fact that when you're actually running Scotty, nothing changes in the actual model. It's safe to run personal information through Scotty. You don't need to worry about it getting retained anywhere. It's just the same kind of problem you'd have with any other software where you've got to manage the actual storage of the information. The training is a slightly different situation. There, we have to be very careful about what we're using when we're training the models to make sure that any personal information that goes into it is not going to be harmful. I'm not sure the encryption methods what you're looking for in that one. But if you had data that was encrypted in a database, so long as Scotty understood how it can decrypt that data, it could use that data if it needed to be able to actually access the encrypted data. I'm not sure if that answering your question about the encrypted methods, the encryption methods, though. Does it use specific data connections?
Yeah, yeah.
We can hook it into pretty much anything. So right now, just to give you some sense on databases that we have hooked it up to, people have used it with Snowflake, Postgres, SQL Server, MySQL, um, implies Druid, Apache Druid, basically that technology, SQLite. So we have not had a lot of trouble hooking it up to all kinds of different data sources. And if you've got a particular data source that we need to support, we'll add that into the system for you. All right, and we're even using like our nice little things. There are all kinds of emojicons you can actually use here. This is one of my favorite.
That's a good one.
Other questions people have right now? All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone turning up today and listening to what we have to say. And please feel free to reach out to me. I will pop up my contact info here on the screen so you guys have it. And it doesn't
Are
need to
you in
be.
Scotland?
We're based in Scotland, actually. But like I said, I lived in America. I lived in America until 2020, and then I moved to Scotland for the better weather. And most of the people are based in Scotland, but we have some people in America, and we have some people scattered in a few other countries. But most people are based in America, in Scotland.
And I live in the former capital of England, Gainsborough. We're proud of that. It was 1,000 years ago, and we only got it for a week. But hey,
Thank you so much, Oliver. That was so interesting, and gosh, I learned a lot, and appreciate you taking your time today, and I appreciate everyone that came on today. Thank you so much.
And like I said, please feel free to reach out. It doesn't need to be about anything specific about Smarter, just even general AI questions. We're happy to talk to you guys about that as well. And if we can, we'll try pointing you in the right direction. So
Thank you, Oliver. I have a quick question, maybe some closing thoughts for this call. Where do you draw the line on Scottish capabilities? Because we've seen a lot of companies, they have messy data, right? And then we can organize that data and transform that into information, right? Um, and going beyond that, we can extract knowledge, insights from that information that we just categorized, right? And perhaps even wisdom, right, which is applying knowledge to make calls and decisions and so on, or more informed decisions, I should say. Where do you draw the line? Where do you think? What do you think are the current capabilities of Scotty in this framework of data all the way to wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really a hard question to answer. It's a very fluid landscape. It's every time we look at new problems, we figure out new ways of solving it, and I think that it's really hard to tell where the end point is. I think we're really at the beginning of a 20 to 30-year journey of using this kind of technology and transforming business with it. So it's hard to predict exactly where it's going to end up, but it's really quite remarkable the number of problems that you can attack with it by now. And as I get back to something I said previously, you really always want to start with what is that business use case? What is the problem I really want to solve? And then once you know that, then we look at it and go, okay, what is the right way to solve it? And some of it might involve AI, some of it mightn't involve AI. But that's really where you want to start is what do I want to solve? And then we try to figure out whether we think if that's in the art of the possible to do right now with the technology that's there.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think, from what I've seen in this presentation, we can certainly go from data to information. We can certainly organize massive databases and even to knowledge, I would say, and derive insights from the information. Wisdom, though, is something, I guess, even a bit more philosophical. But yeah, sounds good.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Oliver.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.